こんにちは、アリです。私のチャンネルへようこそ。今日の動画は I want to explain the reason I came to Japan. I didn't come here because I like anime or, I like Japanese fashion. It's a lot more complex. So I decided to make a video about the real reason that I came to Japan, explaining, a little bit more in depth. I have spoken about this topic on other people's channels and briefly on my own, but I wanted to give a more in-depth answer as to why I really came to Japan. So let's get started with my long but hopefully quite interesting reason as to why I came to Japan and I'm still here 6 years later. I think there was a time in my life when I had everything that sounded good. Everything was fine in my life, but there was just something missing, and fine wasn't really good enough. I kind of wanted to experience something that was just outside of what I knew. And there was a part of me that knew that if I were to stay in my comfortable bubble for all of my life, I would not have the experience that I needed to be fully myself. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, and I just felt that there was a piece of the puzzle that I would find in Japan. I don't know which piece that was, and I don't know why I felt that it was Japan, but I think I'd always had a sort of nostalgia for a country that I'd never been to before, at least in this lifetime. I do believe in previous lives. I believe that we have multiple lives. I won't go into that now, but I will say that I definitely strongly believe that I was Japanese in a past life. But without getting into that one, going back to London, I was in this place where I worked for a big corporate company, and I just looked down the corridor, the white walls and plain floor, and I thought, is this the corridor that I want to see for the rest of my life? Is this the reason that I was born? I don't think so. And it was kind of like the irony of having everything that you could want on paper, but just knowing that there was more, and not knowing what more, but just knowing that this was not it. This was not the reason that I had been born, that I had been put on this planet. So I went off to South America. That is my father's country, and so I went there to stay with the South American family. And during this time was when I really seriously felt like something had to change. And I did a lot of meditation and a lot of yoga. I was just coming back to myself and trying to find the truth, or at least trying to find which direction to go in to find the truth. And as I was meditating one day, I clearly remember not a voice, but kind of like a wind, a wind of energy, and the sudden, clear understanding that I must go to Japan. And after that session, I went back to the house and I showered and I got ready and I sat down very calmly with my parents and said, Mum and Dad, I'll be going to Japan this year. And of course they were like, what are you talking about? How random, you don't have anything, you don't have a job, you don't speak the language, you don't have any friends, nothing. And I was kind of like, for a woman who is extremely planned and organized, I was like, I'll just find a way. I will just make it work, and if it doesn't work, I'll just find another way. And from that moment on, there was no doubt in my mind that I would be going to Japan. Of course, there were moments of what am I doing? Freaking out and stuff. But that was when the mind took control and the heart was silenced. But when I listened to my heart, even just coming to Japan or just in daily life, when I listen to my heart, I am taken to a beautiful place. I don't think it's not a cultural thing, it's a societal thing. We are not encouraged to trust things that we don't know with evidence and hard fact. We are not encouraged to really dream, or dream big at least. We're encouraged to follow the systems and do what's safe, you know? So I think it was a big risk coming to Japan and trying it and stuff. So in the time between having that message and actually coming to Japan, I think it was about 4 months, which isn't a great deal of time. And during this time, I quit my job, I handed my notice, I said goodbye to all my friends, I spent some precious time with my family. The place where I was living, I let that move on to someone else. I just did all the little final things. And when you have that time limit, you really, really appreciate life because you know that there's an end point. You know that you will be leaving in a certain amount of time, and you don't know, when you're going to have this time with the people that you love again. So in a way, it was kind of like a really beautiful moment leaving the UK to spend with all the people that I love. Yeah, like, of course, throughout this whole journey, there were certainly times where I was like, I'm scared. But I think sometimes the fear of staying in this dead end feeling, the fear of never fully understanding who you are is much greater than the fear of just doing what doesn't make sense and seeing what happens. And I kind of describe it as like jumping into the ocean. So like when you're standing on the top, on the cliff or whatever, and you're looking down, like it doesn't make sense. It's so scary and you don't know, what fish or animals are lurking underneath the water. But you just have to trust yourself. And that moment of jumping, it's like there is no past and there is no future. There's just you on your journey, ready to discover something about yourself. And that, I think, gave me a new aspect to life. It really brought me to life. And of course, here I am 6 years later, absolutely loving the life that I have here in Japan. I've met some amazing people, and I'm here talking on YouTube to you amazing, viewers who are so supportive and so interesting, with your responses and with your feedback and with your energy. I feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world. And there's a lot in life when we listen to our mind. There's a lot that we could always have more. We could always be more beautiful or more thin or more rich or something like that. But I think coming to Japan kind of taught me you don't need to push for more. You just need to push for exactly who you are. And if it means doing scary things and challenging the status quo, or doing things that even people close to you think that's so silly, if you do it, you kind of find a side of yourself. And I think, that's why even if I do leave Japan, I think I will always have extremely fond memories, because the country itself is, I cannot explain in words how fantastic Japan is. But I think also, it was that safe space for me to really blossom into who I am and who I wanted to be for such a long time. I really feel like Japan is like a magic place. It just has this energy about it. And even though, of course, there are ups and downs, as there are in most people's lives, I can appreciate every moment of it. I've learned continuously. I'm an extremely spiritual person, and I felt like when I came to Japan, I was in the adventure world of spirituality, because I feel like people understand on a deep feeling level. They understand about spirituality here in Japan. So that was really, really nice to kind of come home, so to speak. So many aspects of Japanese culture, I just felt like even though my logical brain or my ego was oh, I don't understand that, something in my heart was just yes, I understand it and I feel it. And I feel in some ways more understood in Japan than I did at home. This is a really tiny, silly example, but the fact that there's a word for sayu, drinking hot water. I remember drinking hot water in my country because I just like hot water, and people were oh my god, don't you want a tea bag? I'm no, I just want some sayu. And it was really nice just coming to a country where people are oh, okay, sayu, and I'm oh, there's a word for that. I'm so relieved. So that's just like a really minute example, but just little ways of being and little ways of seeing the world that I just got. The joy of coming here and understanding a side of myself, as well as understanding a new culture that was so very different, but also so comforting for me at the same time. It was like this beautiful medley of like learning and growth and opportunity and magic, I would say. Yeah, I really think Japan is magic, and as you may tell from the way that I'm talking, I'm very passionate about Japan and Japanese culture, and it's so beautiful. It's really, yeah, amazing. I hope that my words did this justice. I'm sorry if I got a little bit too excited. But yeah, I truly love Japan, and I hope to stay here for as long as I possibly can. I just want to say thank you to everyone who contributes to this really, truly wonderful country. And yeah, please don't forget the magic of this country. Thank you very much. I'm going to finish there. Please do comment below. I'd love to know what you love so much about Japan too, because there are many, many reasons to enjoy this country and appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, sayonara.